Life, a show about Jewish people and the books we read, the music we listen to, and the movies we watch. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. In this February 2006 episode of our podcast, we'll hear from author Anne Dublin, biographer of Jewish Olympic athlete Bobby Rosenfeld. In recognition of Black History Month, we'll review the CD Let My People Go, a Jewish and African American celebration of freedom. Just for fun, Judaica librarian Stephen Bergson shares his knowledge of Jewish comic books. And CBI students Brooke Beckoff and Rachel Reisberg report on the book Dreamer from the Village, the story of Marc Chagall, with a little help from Rabbi Brockman of Boca's Temple Beth El. The 2006 Olympics in Torino, Italy, featured many Jewish athletes, from U.S. figure skater Sasha Cohen to Israeli skier Michael Renzin. But nothing beats the story of the 1928 Jewish-Canadian athlete Bobby Rosenfeld, the Olympian who could do everything. In fact, this is the title of a biography about this amazing woman who was one of Canada's first female Olympic medalists ever. The biography was published by Second Story Press in 2004. It has won many awards, including the Canadian Jewish Book Award, the Sidney Taylor Honor Award, and it was even a recommended feminist book for youth from the American Library Association's Amelia Bloomer Project. We called Toronto to speak with the author, Anne Dublin. Anne, tell us about Bobby Rosenfeld.
Bobby Rosenfeld was Canada's best female track and field athlete of the 20th century.
What sports did Bobby play?
Well, that's one of the amazing things about Bobby. She played just about every sport that a person could in those days. In fact, they used to say the best way to talk about her was to say that she wasn't good at swimming. She played hockey, tennis, track and field, of course. That's where she got the Olympic medals. Basketball, softball, volleyball. I even heard the story that she tried to do some boxing a few times, too. So she was an all-round athlete. She did so many sports, and she did them so well.
Was Bobby well known in her own day?
She was. She was a real hero. When she came back from the Olympics in 1928 in Amsterdam, people lined the street. There were about 200,000 people that welcomed the athletes back to Toronto. She was a real celebrity.
Why was it challenging to be a female athlete in the 1920s?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, Heidi, in the 1920s, it wasn't bad being a female athlete. Many people call it the golden age of women's sport. There were factory teams and office teams, community centers, and the Y. So a lot of girls had the opportunity to play sport. The problem happened when the Depression hit. There wasn't much money for sports in general, and sports for women really had to take a second place to the men's sport. It took years for the women's sports to recover. It wasn't until about the 1950s or 60s when women started participating more in sports again.
Other Jewish athletes of the early 20th century, Hank Greenberg, for instance, had a special place in the hearts of Jewish fans. Was this true for Bobby Rosenfeld?
The Jewish community in Toronto was very proud of her. In fact, when she came back from the Olympics, a group of women got together and they raised money and they gave her a car. That was an amazing gift for a working woman in those days.
Were you a sports fan before you wrote this book? And if not, are you now?
That's funny you're asking me that. No, I wasn't interested in sports at all. But strangely enough, since doing all the research and writing the book, now I am interested in sports, especially women's sports.
Will knowing more about the history of the Olympics affect the way you watch the games from now on?
Definitely, because when I look at the sports, especially the ones that Bobby participated in, I can appreciate the huge progress that women have made, not only in the fact that they're much better athletes now than they used to be, their training is better, the facilities are better, but the fact that women can participate in so many more sports than they used to. You know, when Bobby Rosenfeld and her teammates went to the Olympics in 1928, that was the first time that women could even participate in track and field. They were real pioneers.
Why is it important for us to remember Bobby Rosenfeld today?
I think it's important to remember her not only because of what she accomplished without any coaching, without facilities, without fancy training or equipment, but I think it's important because when Bobby came back from the Olympics, a few months later she got a very bad case of arthritis, and that pretty well stopped her athletic career. She found a way that she could still be involved in sport even though she couldn't participate in it. And she ended up writing a column about sport for a Toronto newspaper called the Globe and Mail. And she did that for 20 years. So I'm hoping that people will read the book and realize that even if you can't follow your heart's desire, sometimes you can still achieve a great deal and make a difference to other people.
Ann Dublin, I want to thank you for talking with us about Bobby Rosenfeld.
Thank you, Heidi. It was a pleasure.
Let My People Go, a Jewish and African-American celebration of freedom from Appleseed Recordings, is a fascinating CD featuring the music of Kim and Reggie Harris, a married pair of African-American singers, songwriters, historical interpreters, and cultural advocates, and Rabbi Jonathan Kliegler of Woodstock Jewish Congregation in upstate New York, and a performer in his own right. Let My People Go has a little of everything: ancient Hebrew songs based on the Exodus, African-American spirituals, and songs of the civil rights movement. It also includes reminiscences from African-Americans and Jews who were involved in the movement. The music on this album is impassioned, solemn in some places and joyful in others. There are songs in Hebrew and in English, and there are voices young and old, black and white. My favorite number is the song you hear in the background, in which the professional performers and the children and counselors of a summer camp come together in true celebration. Ani Ma'amin is a 1,000-year-old song that was used as a song of resistance in the concentration camps. It means, I believe with a complete faith in the coming of an era of justice and peace, and even if that time is delayed, I still believe. It combines perfectly with the very moving We Shall Overcome, and emphasizes the joy of working together, playing together, and singing together. I hope that CBI members will take the opportunity to borrow the CD from the Feldman Library, and that others will order it at cdbaby.com.
Deep in my heart, I do believe we are not afraid.
Stephen Bergson, a librarian from the Jewish Public Library of Toronto, is a longtime comics fan. During a recent visit to Florida, he met with the local chapter of the Association of Jewish Libraries to share his knowledge of Jewish comics with fellow librarians. During the ride to the meeting, we had time for a quick interview about the Jewish nature of comic books. Is Superman Jewish?
The factual answer is no, he's not Jewish because they had no Jews on Krypton. But he is Jewish in the sense that he had two Jewish dads, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And there are certainly some parallels between the Superman story and Jewish stories. He's got the strength like Samson. He was taken away from his homeworld to earth in the same way that Moses was sent in the reed basket to the Pharaoh's daughter and was adopted by them, the same way that the Kents adopted Kal-El, who became Clark Kent. There's also this sense of the Holocaust parallel, that the same way that Jews sent kids on the Kinder transport, his parents tried to save him by sending him away in a rocket, away from what they could see was the impending destruction.
What would be your recommendation as a sort of starter comic for somebody who wants to start reading Jewish comics?
One of the ones I would recommend is a series called Mendy and the Golem. The president of Archie Comics was approached by Spire Publishing to get permission to use the Archie characters, Archie, Jughead, Veronica, in comics that would talk about Christian messages. And the president of Archie Comics gave him the permission. One of the guys who worked for Archie Comics decided to come out with a Jewish version, because there could be a Christian version, why can't there be a Jewish version? Instead of using the Archie characters, though, he came out with Jewish characters, and that's how you got Mendy, the Golem, Mendy's father, who's a rabbi, Rivka. They're up to about 5 issues. For hardcover graphic novels, especially for children, I would recommend Joan Spar's 2 Little Vampire books. There's one called Little Vampire Goes to School, and the other is Little Vampire Takes Kung Fu. The vampire is not Jewish, it's the friend of the little vampire who's Jewish. There's a whole team of Jewish superheroes called Jewish Hero Corps. The guy who came up with it is a comics fan, and he once thought it would be really cool if Jewish readers had their own heroes from Jewish tradition, with something identifiably Jewish to them. So he came up with Menorah Man, who can grow 8 arms, I think. One character has a shield of David to protect him. There's a woman, Shabbos Queen, whose powers are only good for 6 days, because she has to rest on the 7th day. It does give one a bit of a sense of Jewish pride if you're a comics reader.
Steve Berson, thanks so much for speaking with us about Jewish comics.
And thanks for having me on your show.
We have a very special segment for you now, in which 2 students at Congregation B'nai Israel share their reaction to the book Dreamer from the Village, the story of Marc Chagall. To give you a little context for their report, we'll hear first from Rabbi Jessica Spitalnik-Brockman of Temple Bethel in Boca Raton. Rabbi Brockman is a lover of Jewish art who pursued a master's in art history before becoming a rabbi.
Marc Chagall was an amazing artist whose life really spanned every major Jewish event of the last 100 years, from the pogroms in Russia to the founding of the State of Israel. And because he had a strong Jewish identity, his art infused both the secular world and the Jewish world.
Well, what's the story with the colorful animals and the upside-down people? Why are Chagall's paintings so surreal?
They're surreal because Chagall lived through all these terrible events. And what would you want to do more than anything but escape those events? So some of Chagall's floating people and flying animals are a way of transcending. So I think there's an escapism that's there. I think it's also his unique style.
Rabbi Brockman, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge of Chagall with us.
It was a pleasure. I love his art, I love his work, and I love his life.
Now we'll hear from Brooke and Rachel, 2 lovely 3rd grade girls here at CBI's School for Living Judaism.
Hi, I'm Brooke Becca.
Hi, I'm Rachel Reisberg.
We read Dreamer in the Village.
It's about a famous artist that was in her life
Named Marc Chagall. This book is about a baby who was born during a fire, and his mother kept him safe while the fire was going on.
The baby's name was Moshe, but he was called Mark.
As a little boy, he roamed the streets carrying a hunk of buttered bread in his hand.
As a teenager, Mark sat on the roof eating carrots.
On Passover, Mark loved to draw pictures of Haggadah.
Mark knew he was different from other boys. He thought he saw things other people didn't see.
Mark decided he was meant for something special, like art, so he quit his job and started a new one to become an artist.
He hung his pictures on the wall for everyone to see, but his family didn't like them at all.
Even though his family hated his paintings, he kept on drawing.
His mom sent him to an art school.
The teacher told him to draw neat copies of his work.
During a visit home, Mark met a woman named Bella.
She was rich and wanted to be an actress.
On Mark's birthday, Bella came over.
She was happy to see him.
After Mark's birthday, he got married to Bella.
They were very happy.
We liked the book. It was very interesting.
What did you like in this book?
The paintings.
Like things were upside down in the paintings and stuff.
You said it was interesting, Rachel. Why was it interesting?
It was interesting because, the first time I read it, I never knew he was a real person, and now I know.
Do you like the way the artist drew the pictures?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're the same way that Mark would really draw the picture.
Do you like the way that the author wrote it so that it's sort of dreamy like Marc Chagall's pictures?
Well, I think they should have explained it a little better.
When I heard that he was carrying a hunk of buttered bread, I didn't know what that meant.
Would you recommend this book for other kids to read?
Yeah.
Why?
I think it has like a little bit of love in it because it says that Bella and him got married.
And I think other kids would think it was interesting too.
The book is Dreamer from the Village, The Story of Marc Chagall, by Michelle Markle with pictures by Emily Lisker, published by Henry Holt & Company in 2005. This title was named a 2006 Notable Children's Book of Jewish Content by the Association of Jewish Libraries. Thanks to Brooke Beckoff and Rachel Reisberg for sharing their views on it. If you'd like to express your opinion on our show about any book, CD, or video owned by the Feldman Library, or to share a page from your own personal book of life, email me, Heidi Estrin, at heidi@cbiboca.org. That's HEIDI@cbiboca.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilich Makers Klezmer String Band from Sacramento, California, whose CDs feature upbeat music from the Ashkenazic and Sephardic traditions with Brazilian, Gypsy, and Celtic influences. Borrow their CDs at the Feldman Library or buy your own copies at freilichmakers.com. To download episodes of the Book of Life podcast, visit us on the web at jewishbooks.blogspot.com. That's jewishbooks, one word, .blogspot.com. Links to the books and CDs mentioned in the show are available on this website. Thanks for listening, everybody, and happy reading!